The first light of Kale-9's twin suns spilled over the jagged ridge like molten gold, setting the rocky outcrop ablaze against the endless desert below. Arya Ven crouched near the edge, her sharp eyes scanning the dusty plains where thin lines of Empire patrols crisscrossed like ants disturbed from a nest. Every figure moving beneath carried the weight of the Galactic Empire's iron fist, a force eager to erase resistance, to impose order by fire and steel. Arya's breath came steady, calm, despite the pounding in her chest. The ridge was more than just a vantage point. It was the last stand of a ragtag band of freedom fighters who had no choice but to fight for their lives and homes. Beneath her, the land stretched vast and brutal, an unforgiving expanse of sand, rock, and whispered dangers. "Any sign of movement near the South Pass?" her second-in-command, Ryan, asked softly. "Nothing yet," Arya replied, fingers tightening on her worn rifle. "But they're gathering. I can feel it." Around them, 5 resistance fighters adjusted their positions, the dry wind tugging at their gear. The youngest, a wiry man named Jace, peered through a cracked visor, a nervous twitch betraying his calm facade. "Do you really think this plan will work?" Jace's voice broke the silence. Arya's gaze softened for a moment. "It has to. We can't wait for Creel's army to steamroll us. We hit their supply lines, and maybe, just maybe, they stall long enough for reinforcements to arrive." "Reinforcements?" Ryan's eyebrow rose. "From who?" "The Empire controls all the jump points. Some still believe in us," Arya said, her voice low but fierce. "If we show we're not done yet, the colonies might listen." Her team exchanged uncertain looks. Hope was fragile, especially here. A crackling static interrupted the quiet, their comm link buzzing with intercepted Empire chatter. Arya's fingers flew over her portable decryptor. "Commander Creel is losing patience," she murmured. "Orders to crush all resistance on Kale-9. New neural helmet tech deployed to frontline units. Supposed to break our coordination." Ryan's face darkened. "Those helmets. I heard rumors. They're supposed to link soldiers' minds, syncing commands instantly. Makes them unbeatable. Or so they think," Arya said, voice sharp. "We'll find a way." The ridge shuddered briefly, a distant rumble that wasn't thunder. Sand shifted, winds shifted, and somewhere below, the Empire's engines prepared to roar. Arya stood, stretching the stiffness from her muscles. "We've been pushed to the edge before," she said, scanning her team's tired but resolute faces. "We'll be pushed again. But this ridge is ours. We know every crevice, every shadow." She gestured toward the horizon. "We'll strike their supply convoys at dawn. Hit them where it hurts before they bring the full weight down on us." Ryan nodded slowly. "Risky, but it's the only way." Jace swallowed hard. "What if we don't make it back?" "Then we make sure they pay a price," Arya replied, eyes hardening. "Every step they take on Kale-9 will cost them blood and bone." Night deepened as the resistance fighters prepared their weapons and checked their gear. Arya lingered on the ridge's edge a moment longer, breathing in the dry air thick with dust and resolve. Her mind flickered back to the faces lost in past skirmishes, friends and comrades who had fallen defending this unforgiving world. Their sacrifices demanded more than quiet mourning, they demanded victory. A soft voice beside her broke through the memory. "Arya," Ryan said gently, "you carry too much. You don't have to bear it alone." Arya turned, catching the earnest concern in Ryan's eyes. For a moment, the weight of command felt like a crushing boulder. "I carry it because someone has to," she said quietly. "Because if I don't believe, no one else will." Ryan nodded, respect mingling with worry. "Then let's make sure you don't have to carry it forever." Before dawn, Arya's team slipped down the ridge, moving like shadows across jagged stone and brittle scrub. Below, the Empire's supply convoy crawled across the desert floor, massive hover transports laden with munitions and food, the lifeblood of Creel's troops. Arya's heart thudded as she gave the signal. A small team fanned out silently, planting charges on the transport hulls, while others took up overwatch. Minutes stretched like hours. Then, with a muffled series of detonations, the convoy erupted in fire and smoke, chaos rippling through the Empire lines. From her vantage point, Arya watched the patrols scramble, their neural helmets flickering in the low light. For a moment, their coordinated movements faltered. Confusion blossomed like wildfire. But reinforcements poured in fast, their helmets syncing orders with terrifying speed. Imperial soldiers moved like ghosts, swift, precise, remorseless. Arya cursed under her breath. They're adapting. Retreat! She barked. Fall back to the ridge! Her fighters melted into the shadows, harried but alive. Back at their outpost, the team gathered, breaths ragged, faces grim. Jace, Arya said, clapping the young fighter on the shoulder. You held your ground. Jace gave a shaky grin. Couldn't have done it without you. Arya shook her head. We did it together. But this is only the beginning. The crackle of the comm link interrupted the brief moment of relief. A panicked voice from a distant outpost. Empire troops, helmets active, breaking our lines, need immediate support. Arya's pulse quickened. The new neural tech wasn't just a rumor. It was real. And it was turning the tide. She stared back at the ridge's jagged outline, silhouetted against the rising suns. The Galactic Empire laughed from that ridge, arrogant and sure of victory. But Arya Ven knew what came next. Their helmets would shatter like glass. Night had swallowed Kale-9's desert, cloaking the world in cold shadows and silence. The twin moons cast faint silver light on the jagged ridges, but below, the desert floor was a labyrinth of dark shapes and moving shadows. Arya Ven crouched behind a boulder, the coarse grit of Kale's rock pressing into her palms. Her breath was steady, the only sound beyond the occasional whistle of dry wind. Around her, 6 resistance fighters mirrored her stillness, each waiting for the moment to strike. The supply convoy they hunted was moving slowly through a narrow canyon, an artery vital to the Empire's grip on Kale-9. Heavy hover transports, bristling with weaponry and shields, lumbered forward, guarded by infantry squads equipped with the dreaded neural helmets. Arya's voice was a whisper, clipped and precise. Positions. Remember, silence is survival. Ryan, her second-in-command, gave a subtle nod. Charges are set? Primed and ready. Jace's fingers danced over the detonator controls. The young fighter's nervous energy had calmed since their last engagement. Now, his focus sharpened with purpose. The team moved like shadows, slipping between rock formations and ghosting through the dark. The slightest noise could alert the convoy, turning their mission into a slaughter. Arya's mind replayed the intercepted communications about the neural helmets. Soldiers connected mentally, commands flowing instantly, responses synchronized with machine-like efficiency. The technology was supposed to be invincible. The Empire believed it would snuff out every ember of resistance. But they hadn't counted on human instinct. The first charge detonated with muted fury, ripping through the rear transport's hull. Explosions blossomed in the canyon's mouth, flames licking the night air, followed by the chaos of alarms and rapid movement. Contact! One of the fighters hissed, diving behind cover as the convoy soldiers scrambled. Arya's eyes locked on the neural helmets gleaming faintly under the moonlight. Despite their terrifying precision, the soldiers faltered momentarily, confused by the unexpected strike. Hold the line, Arya ordered, firing 2 quick bursts from her rifle to suppress enemy advances. Stay tight. Focus on their feet, not their helmets. Ryan's voice came over the comlink, steady. They're adjusting. Neural sync is recalibrating. Incoming reinforcements at Grid 7 Alpha. Arya scanned the horizon. Hover transports were shifting course, disgorging fresh troops faster than expected. They're moving faster than predicted, she muttered. We need to wrap this up. The team split, some covering the retreat while others planted secondary charges along the convoy's path. Every second mattered. Jace, cover the west flank, Arya commanded. Ryan and I will take the east. Move! The night exploded into a blur of gunfire and motion. The crackle of blasters echoed off canyon walls, punctuated by the sharp snap of explosives. Despite the Empire's high-tech helmets, the Resistance fought with unpredictable ferocity, guerrilla tactics born of desperation and intimate knowledge of the terrain. Arya ducked behind a jagged rock as a squad of helmeted soldiers swept through. Her heart pounded as she fired bursts aimed low, targeting ankles and knees, knowing the helmets couldn't protect against every vulnerability. Suddenly, a sharp pain exploded in her shoulder. She staggered, blinking away the haze. A sniper's beam had found her. "Arya!" Ryan's voice cut through the chaos. "Fall back, now!" She gritted her teeth, forcing herself to move despite the burning ache. "Not without Jace." Her comlink crackled again, Jace's panicked voice. "I'm pinned! Need cover!" Without hesitation, Arya swung around the rock face, sprinting toward the west flank. She saw Jace crouched, firing frantically as enemies closed in. "On me!" she shouted, unleashing a barrage that scattered the approaching soldiers. Jace's eyes were wide, gratitude mingling with adrenaline. "You came just in time. We don't leave anyone behind," Arya said firmly. "Move!" Together, they retreated toward the ridge, the sound of enemy reinforcements swelling behind them. Meanwhile, aboard the Empire command ship orbiting Kale 9, Commander Talvar Creel watched the battle unfold with cold eyes. A holographic map flickered before him, red dots marking his troops, green the resistance. "They're bold," Creel muttered, fingers steepled. "But reckless." His adjutant approached. "Sir, Neural Helmet troops report some disruption, but synchronization remains intact. New weapon systems are compensating." Creel's lips curled. "Then tighten the noose. Deploy the second wave equipped with enhanced helmets. Crush them quickly before they rally." Back on the ridge, Arya's forces converge, breathing heavy, bodies bruised but spirits unbroken. The raid had disrupted the supply line but cost dearly. Ryan examined Arya's shoulder wound, grim. "We can't keep taking hits like this." Arya shook her head, voice resolute. "Every scar is proof we're still here. The Empire underestimates what we'll endure." Jace cleaned his rifle, eyes distant. "Those helmets. I saw one soldier coordinate 3 others with a single thought. It's like fighting those connected by a hive mind." Arya's gaze hardened. "Which means we have to break that connection." "How?" Ryan asked. "By hitting their weaknesses. The helmets rely on constant signals. We disrupt the network, jam their comms, blind their minds." Ryan frowned. "We don't have the tech for that." "Then we improvise," Arya said. "We know this land. We know their movements. We turn their strength into a trap." The night deepened as they planned their next move, the weight of the Empire pressing down but failing to crush the fragile flame of resistance. Suddenly, a desperate call came through on the comlink, distorted and fragmented. "Outposts breached, helmets active, soldiers, breaking lines, need support." The voice was cut off abruptly. Arya's heart sank. The new helmets were more than hardware, they were a psychological weapon, dismantling trust and coordination within the resistance. "We have to hold the ridge," she said, voice firm. "If they take it, Kale 9 falls." Ryan nodded, eyes fierce. "Then we stand." As the distant hum of Empire engines grew louder, Arya stared into the darkness beyond the ridge. The coming battle would test everything they had. But surrender was not an option. Their fight had only just begun. The first light of dawn was swallowed by the roar of engines and the thunder of boots pounding against the rocky ridge. Arya then tightened her grip on her rifle, heart pounding as the Empire's assault crashed against their defenses like a relentless tide. Below, the desert stretched endless, but here on the ridge, the battle was intimate, every rock, every crevice a battleground where human will met cold machinery. The Empire's soldiers, their faces obscured behind neural helmets glowing faintly with pulse-like lights, advanced with calculated precision. Their movements synchronized, every squad a seamless unit obeying unseen commands flowing through their neural links. Arya scanned the chaos. Her fighters were battered, some bloodied, but their resolve hadn't cracked. She moved among them, shouting orders and steadying trembling hands. "Hold the eastern flank," she barked, pulling a wounded fighter behind cover. "Keep low and fire in bursts." Don't give them an opening. The helmets gave the Empire soldiers an edge no ordinary army could match: instant coordination, split-second reactions. Arya knew the tech was designed to shatter resistance by controlling minds, but she also suspected it had limits. Her suspicions turned to hope when a sudden blast rocked the ridge, shaking the ground beneath their feet. A squad of Empire soldiers faltered, stumbling as their helmets flickered and glowed erratically. "What the hell?" one helmeted soldier cursed, clutching his head. The others nearby staggered, disoriented. Arya's eyes narrowed. "It's the electromagnetic fields. The ridge's natural interference is scrambling their neural links." She motioned urgently to her team. "Focus fire on the helmets. Aim for the heads. If those devices fail, their advantage disappears." Blasts tore through the ranks, helmets sparking and shattering like brittle glass. Soldiers without their neural links stumbled, their movements sluggish, their tactics collapsing. Ryan yelled beside Arya. "This is our chance. Push forward!" With a rallying cry, Arya led the charge, her rifle blazing. Resistance fighters surged, exploiting the confusion to reclaim lost ground. The clang of metal and roar of blasters filled the air as hand-to-hand combat erupted. Arya found herself face to face with an Imperial officer, helmeted, but shaken. Their weapons crossed, the officer snarling as Arya sidestepped and drove her blade through the gap in his armor. Breath ragged, she kicked the fallen soldier aside and turned back to the fight. Around her, the resistance was pushing back fiercely, the tide shifting with every shattered helmet. But victory wasn't without cost. A sudden blast hit nearby, sending debris flying. Arya was thrown off her feet, pain flaring through her ribs. She gritted her teeth and struggled up. "Arya!" Jace's voice called out. "We're being flanked." She spun toward the eastern ridge just in time to see a fresh wave of helmeted troops closing in, their coordination almost seamless again. "No time to waste!" Arya shouted, grabbing a grenade and hurling it into the advancing line. Explosions rocked the ridge, but the enemy pressed forward. The neural helmets were adapting, the electromagnetic interference weakening as soldiers found new ways to maintain connection. Arya cursed under her breath. "We need a permanent solution. This fight can't go on like this." Then, amidst the chaos, an idea struck. "Ryan! The EMP devices, where are they?" Ryan ducked behind a crag, pulling a small device from her pack. "Ready, but it has a short range." "Bring it here! We're taking the fight to them." Together, they charged toward the heart of the assault, weaving through gunfire and crumbling stone. Arya planted the EMP device on a rocky ledge, activating it with a sharp press. A wave of electromagnetic energy pulsed out, the hum of technology dying as helmets flickered and crashed en masse. Screams and curses erupted from the Empire troops as their neural links shattered. Arya seized the moment. "Now! Push them off the ridge!" Her fighters surged, pushing hard. The Empire soldiers, stripped of their enhanced coordination, fell back in disarray. Near the ridge's summit, Arya faced Commander Talvar Creel himself. The man's helmet cracked, sparks flying as he glared at her. "You're a stubborn pest," Creel snarled, drawing a plasma blade. "And you're about to lose." Arya shot back, dodging his strike and countering with a swift blow that sent him staggering. Creel's pride was raw, but his resolve unbroken. He snarled again, charging, but the tide had turned. Around them, the Empire's assault was collapsing. With Creel's forces retreating, Arya stood on the ridge, breathing hard, blood mixing with dust. The shattered helmets littered the battlefield, silent monuments to human defiance. Ryan came to her side, wiping sweat from her brow. "They thought their tech made them invincible." Arya looked out over the desert, the sun cresting the horizon. "They forgot one thing: technology can fail, but will and spirit don't." Her voice was steady, fierce. "Today, the Galactic Empire learned that the ridge isn't theirs." "Not yet." Jace knelt nearby, collecting the broken helmets. "They'll study these," he said quietly. "Try to rebuild." Arya nodded. "And we'll be ready." The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Kale 9's rugged ridge had held. For now. But Arya knew that true victory would come not just from shattered helmets, but from the unbreakable human heart. The dawn's light spilled gently over the ridge, softening the harsh scars left by the battle. The desert below stretched vast and silent, as if holding its breath after the storm. The air still carried the acrid tang of burnt circuits and scorched rock, a reminder of the chaos that had raged just hours before. Arya Ven stood at the ridge's edge, her eyes tracing the horizon where the sun's glow met the endless sand. Around her, the remnants of the resistance gathered, exhausted but alive. Some tended to wounds, others collected shattered helmets, broken fragments glinting in the early light like shards of a shattered empire. Ryan approached, her face grim yet resolute. We held the ridge, but we paid dearly. Arya glanced at the scattered bodies, friends and fighters who wouldn't see another dawn. Every loss hurts, she said softly. But we bought Kale-9 another day. Jace knelt nearby, carefully wrapping a fallen comrade's arm in a makeshift bandage. His hands trembled, but his voice was steady. These helmets, we need to understand their weaknesses. It's the only way to prepare for what's next. Arya nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle deeper. We'll gather everything we can. This victory is a turning point, but the Empire will come back harder. A murmur rose among the fighters, a mixture of fatigue, relief, and unspoken fear. Yet beneath it all, a stubborn ember of hope flickered. Arya raised her voice to address them. Today, we showed them that technology isn't the only weapon. The human spirit, our will to survive and to fight, is stronger. One of the older fighters, Mara, stepped forward. What now? The Empire won't forget this defeat. Creel's pride will demand vengeance. Arya met her gaze. Then we prepare. We rebuild, regroup, and fight smarter. As the resistance began organizing, Arya retreated briefly to a small outcrop overlooking the battlefield. She pulled a communicator from her pack and activated it. Kale-9 command, this is Ven, she said, voice steady despite the fatigue. The ridge is ours for now. We've shattered their helmets and their morale. She paused, listening to static and distant voices. We need reinforcements and supplies. If this spark is to become a flame, it must spread. The response was cautious but hopeful. Copy that, Ven. The colonies are watching. Your stand gives them hope. She ended the transmission and let out a long breath. Hope was fragile, but it was enough. Later, around a makeshift campfire, Arya sat with her closest allies. The night was cooler now, the stars brilliant above. The silence between them was comfortable, filled with the unspoken bond of shared hardship. Do you ever wonder, Jace began quietly, if we'll win this war? Or if it's just endless fighting? Arya looked into the fire. I don't know if there's a clear victory ahead. But I do know this, we don't stop. Because surrender means losing everything we love. Ryan added. The Empire believes their technology makes them gods. Today we proved they're mortal. Mara smiled faintly. And mortal things break. Arya nodded. Exactly. Their helmets shattered, but our resolve didn't. The conversation shifted to plans, how to fortify the ridge, improve communication, and gather intelligence on the Empire's next moves. Suddenly, a distant transmission crackled through the camp's comms, a voice rough and determined. This is Colony Sentinel. We see your broadcast, Arya Ven. You've inspired more than you know. The rebellion grows. A wave of whispered excitement swept through the group. Arya's heart surged. The fight on Kale-9 was becoming a beacon. Before dawn broke fully, Arya rose, walking to the ridge once more. The desert stretched wide beneath her, silent and waiting. She thought of the Empire troops retreating, their shattered helmets abandoned like broken dreams. The Galactic Empire had laughed from this ridge, sure of their victory. But today, their laughter had cracked and fractured, just like their technology. And as the sun climbed higher, Arya Ven stood firm, an unyielding symbol of defiance and hope. Kale-9 was free to fight another day. And the echo of that defiance would reach far beyond the desert sands.